Thank you very much, Olivia. Good morning, everybody. Thank you. Needless to say, I'm delighted to be here this morning and to have been invited to Killarney, the beating heart of Irish tourism, needless to say, in the Let's Talk Tourism Conference. A timely forum to review the year just gone and identify maybe some of the opportunities as well as the challenges for the year ahead. And crucially, I suppose, to take stock of whether industry is doing all it can and if it's being enabled to succeed and to reach its full potential. I'm particularly delighted to be here given that our newest member in ITIC is Killarney Tourism. Yet again a first for Irish tourism in that it's our first destination group to join ITIC. So we're particularly delighted, and Niamh, I know, as the spokesperson for Killarney on the ITIC Council, will do you all very proud in that regard. For those of you who don't know me, and thank you, Olivia, for the introduction, I am the current chairperson of ITIC. I'm delighted to have been asked to serve the industry. It is, as you know, the umbrella group for Irish tourism, including the leading private and public sector stakeholders within the industry. And we must never forget, nor should we ever tire or be shy about repeating the fact that this is Ireland's largest indigenous industry. It's heavily reliant on export earnings, with 20,000 plus businesses that are in every town, village, city and rural area, the length and breadth of this country, delivering jobs, exchequer returns and economic activity that sustains rural communities where, along with farming, we're about the only show in town. So let me move on to, I suppose, the first topic of this morning, and that is, I suppose, 2019 and how that year was. When Margaret and Ciara invited myself to talk here this morning, one of the things they said, we might talk about the future. Well, if I had those powers, and if I did, I probably would have written the Tourism Almanac. I would have come this morning and asked you all to buy a copy, and then I might be retiring a little bit early than I planned to. However, with Brexit, in whatever shape still to be crystallised, and impending UK and US elections, it's difficult with any degree of certainty to say where we'll be when this conference comes around next year, let alone beyond that. However, I'm happy to try, but before I do, we need to briefly look at where we are in the industry at the moment. In that context, make no mistake about it, 2019 has been a tougher year. CSO data is already showing us that expenditure from our overseas markets is down across all of the main markets, with the exception of the United States. And crucially, the domestic market appears to be softening, even though we're still waiting on the official figures, but the CSO has confirmed for us that more people travelled overseas in the peak season this year. It was up by 7%. One thing that we did learn yesterday is that the Collins English Dictionary has now adopted Brexit as a new word, so it seems it's going to be here to stay. Brexit and its impact is now being felt much farther afield than just here and in Great Britain. As our European business performance demonstrated this year, Brexit uncertainty, the VAT hike and weakened competitiveness have all made trading conditions that bit more challenging for industry in 2019. This year will likely see the first decline in Irish tourism's economy since in the last 8 years. That said, a lot of us would refer to it maybe as being the reset year, the year that we are going to maybe look at readjusting how we think going forward, and possibly and most definitely looking at more sustainable growth levels into the future. Brexit is not going away, and even if and when the British government reach a withdrawal agreement, remember that's only the start. The horse trading then begins, and there'll be a realisation of the cost of doing business with the UK as a third nation. In the length of time it took to get over hurdle 1 cleared, if that's anything to go by, you can only imagine how long it's possibly going to take to get through the next phase. If you're to listen to the speaker, or the late speaker of Westminster, his view this year is that we could still be talking Brexit in 20 years' time. Let's hope not. But the one thing is for sure, as long as it's around, it's all negative noise, and unfortunately Ireland is inextricably linked. Therefore, no more than ever, we need strong, unambiguous, collaborative approach to be taken between our tourism agencies so that the needs of this industry they support and serve are met. Industry spend supported by government through our agencies has to ensure that we get best bang for every euro, buck and pound that we invest. Paschal Donoghue's budget last month was an opportunity to steady the tourism ship. Regrettably, this was an opportunity that we in the industry view to have been passed up. Minister, I want to say that we in ITIC, along with our member colleagues, are grateful to you and your department colleagues for your endeavours and fighting the good fight on tourism's behalf. We know it was a budget set in the context of Brexit, so it was never going to be easy, and that you made a strong case for tourism with Finance and Minister Donoghue. For that, we have to acknowledge your commitment and determination. As a native of the home of Irish tourism, we know that no one understands the industry you represent better, and we will continue to work with you and the department team to drive home that tourism matters as much as other sectors that received increased capital. The 7 million boost secured for the last couple of months of this year is welcome, very welcome indeed, and will provide much needed reassurance campaigns in the context of Brexit in our overseas markets. And it is good to hear about that regional investment fund, because obviously it is to everybody's benefit in tourism that we spread our business around the regions and continue to grow it that way. But by the same token, it has to be said that we cannot take solace in what the government delivered. This was a disappointing budget for Irish tourism. Yes, tourism was acknowledged alongside agriculture and enterprise as being a very vulnerable sector that will be hit severely by a hard Brexit. This is welcome and overdue, and slowly but surely the tourism sector is being given proper recognition as a key component of the national economic debate. However, the extra money earmarked in 2020 for tourism is exclusively predicated on a no-deal Brexit outcome. Any deal, or indeed extension of Brexit, means that not a penny more is to be committed to tourism next year compared to last year. Furthermore, Budget 2020 did very little to improve competitiveness measures for our industry. For example, Irish tourism still pays a considerably high VAT rate, higher than 27 other EU countries, and there was no action on insurance reform, a cost that is crippling many of the businesses in this industry. The positive spin after Budget 2020 related to the fact that tourism was allocated 40 million additional funds should a no-deal Brexit come about. This is evidentially welcome, although we all hope that some form of deal is cobbled together and passes through Westminster at some near time in the future. However, yet again, with Brexit there is no certainty, there is no clarity, or where the process is going, other than flextension, which is yet again another new word that entered the Collins English Dictionary yesterday. And we must hold our breaths to see what the end of January will bring. But in the meantime, during this vital period of holiday planning, Brexit continues to cause damage in our core markets, with all most likely and will most likely contribute yet again to the consumers pushing out their decision to visit Ireland in 2020. According to Fáilte Ireland, a no-deal Brexit would mean a 500 million hammer blow to the Irish tourism industry, which puts the 40 million from the Exchequer in perspective. It is not time for the government to now recognise the ongoing damage and implications and release perhaps some of that 40 million in Q1 to shore up our position in the export side of tourism. Perhaps it's time to reconsider that it's not just a no Brexit deal that we should be looking for that sort of support. Looking ahead, with a softening market and an unsupported budget, 2020 could again be a challenging year for Irish tourism. North America should continue to perform well, spearheaded by Aer Lingus and IAG's strategy of connecting the US and Canada to Europe via the hub of Dublin Airport, thereby creating new routes which deliver direct air access. However, other markets are likely to be soft. Britain has its own unique set of self-enforced difficulties, while the European economy looks likely to have one of its cyclical wobbles. Long-haul Asian markets, of which there was much excitement, has so far failed to deliver on their potential, as evidenced by Hainan Airlines and Cathay Pacific cancelling their direct services from Beijing and Hong Kong. Obviously, there is still opportunity, but it will be for the longer term and will not replace what we may lose in the shorter term. Then we are facing a key period for Irish tourism, and certainly one of choppier waters. Many of us have been there before, and many of us will know how to be resilient in such circumstances. But at all times, the tourism industry should not be shy about how much it is a net contributor to the national finances. Tourism and hospitality businesses are spending $2.5 billion in the next 3 years in new tourism product and infrastructure, and it employs 270 people nationally. No other industry can provide the regional economic balance that tourism does. Despite a more challenging period, ITIC is of the view that over the medium term, we can be confident about our sector and its growth prospects. An 8-year industry strategic roadmap for the sector was published by ITIC in 2017, and we predicted increased overseas earnings and significant job growth coming to us by 2025. Industry has proven it is putting its money where its mouth is and is investing heavily in its future. Crucially though, the right enabling factors must be in place, and pro-tourism, competitive enhancing, business-friendly policies must be adopted by this government and its successors. And talking about pro-tourism government policies, the last significant initiatives were back in about 2012. You'll remember that at that stage we removed the airport departure tax, the reduction in our VAT rate, and of course the gathering. Look at the growth since then, but that's now nearly 8 years without a new bold government initiative on tourism. ITIC urges the government to be proactive. A start would be releasing some of that 40 million no-deal money now to support tourism during these more turbulent times. It is vital that we as an industry remain self-aware, acknowledge any weaknesses and constantly innovate and seek to improve. Holding a mirror up to our sector to see the wrinkles and defects is important. Too often in the past, we may have been too quick to accept the high satisfaction levels of tourists as reported in surveys conducted by Culture Ireland. It's a competitive world out there, and there has never been so much choice, there has never been so much competition for the tourist and the traveller. Other countries are adopting their own dynamic strategies. Scotland is stealing a march in terms of environmental sustainability and their food offering, and following our lead on the development by their industry of a longer term strategy. Australia is making a pitch for luxury tourism. New Zealand is really focusing in on wellness tourism. The point that I'm trying to make here, I guess, is that Ireland is not as unique sometimes as we like to think that it is. That means we must stay agile, we must stay on our toes, and as an industry, we are going to have to work very hard to stay ahead of our competitors. Personally, I have always been of the view that we have not done enough in the Republic of Ireland to develop game-changing tourism experiences. Look at what Titanic did for Belfast. Look at what the Guggenheim did for Bilbao. Why aren't we thinking big, bold products such as that? You'll remember Ken Mayer came up with the idea a number of years ago about the Centre of Irish Contemporary Culture, a bold, great initiative. Or what about the coast-to-coast Greenway from Dublin across the Midlands to the Wild Atlantic Way? Yes, it is terrific, and the Minister is right. It is fantastic to have the development of greenways that we have nationally, but we need them to come quicker and we need them to join up faster. Or a spectacular glass ledge cliff walkway along the western seaboard so that visitors could experience the Atlantic edge of Europe. Or how about an Irish version of the Eden Project in our natural boglands, showcasing environmental credibility and sustainability? Such ideas are costly and would require significant public as well as private investment. But they are the type of innovative, transformative projects that could bring Irish tourism to that new level. The question might be asked of this government, what will they have funded in the coming decade for the generation that will come after that, who will want to visit and explore and learn? As Margaret and the Minister have already talked about, and I don't think anybody in this room would not wish to be thinking about this climate change and talking about an Irish Eden Project, as an industry we have no choice but to take climate change very seriously. It's a game changer for us all in our lives, daily and otherwise, and for our industry. Responsible tourism has to be a key feature of our future. And one other word that entered the Collins English Dictionary yesterday was climate strike. So I think we're staying on topic as far as the Collins English Dictionary is concerned in terms of the topics that we're talking about today, for sure. But we must as an industry look at our businesses and ask ourselves, what and how can we show our customers that we do care and that we are doing more than paying just lip service to such an existential issue. UN sustainability goals do matter. The tourists must have confidence that they can holiday here sustainably and that we take green, a colour the Irish own, seriously, and not just on St. Patrick's Day. We are an island nation. They can't all come here by wind-generated boats. We will always need air access, so we will have to work even harder as a nation and as an industry to lead and embrace change so that our carbon footprint is minimised. We need to take a carrot and not a stick approach, work with and within our communities to drive initiatives. Killarney, as always, has a good example. The group of you that go out into the national park week in, week out to address the rhododendron issue, showing that this industry and the people in it and the community care about your area, that you care about your environment and that you do want to protect it for the future, for future generations. So that's just an example. That's a story, by the way, that was told to me and to a number of us from ITIC when we came down here in June for a meeting. And that's what I mean about sharing the stories. That's a great story to tell, and our tourists want to hear those sorts of stories. So we're doing great stuff, we're just not telling people enough about it. So just as the government put jobs in the heart of every policy initiative during our last recession, we as an industry now need to put climate change at the heart of all that we do in our businesses. Some initiatives will drive cost savings and others may cost more, but for the longer term there is great benefit.
2 minutes, Ruth.
Thank you. One thing is for sure, the more we share that knowledge and information amongst us in the industry, the smarter and better we will all become, and that will be greatly appreciated by our customers of today and in the future. From an ITIC perspective, we are driving that from within and through our council, and we've actually started to engage on a level where we are asking every industry sector to share centrally with us what their plans are, what they're currently doing in terms of sustainability, so that we can actually help to drive that agenda amongst our industry. So I suppose that leads me to say thank you, and to finish up, Olivia, just about keeping to that clock. It has been a great pleasure to be down here this morning. I regret that unfortunately due to commitments I have to leave much earlier than I would ever like to have to leave Killarney, but I'm delighted to say that Eoghan O'Mara Walsh, who you all know and needs no introduction, our Chief Executive at ITIC, will be here for the rest of the day should you have any questions. He takes all the hard ones. I just get to actually do all of the nice parts of the job. But it has been a pleasure to come here today, and I really enjoyed meeting all of the rest of the speakers last night, and I can tell you you're in for a treat. We really have some great people and some people who really do a fantastic job in tourism on all our behalf. So can I wish you well and enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you very much indeed.